Okay, Oak Rovers, this is going to be a video to help us understand the zero product property. But before we look at the zero product property, I first want to talk a little bit about graphing and graphs. If you notice on the graph that I have here at the right, I have a bunch of points on the x-axis. Negative 8, 0, negative 3, 0, 2, 0, and 9, 0 are all on the x-axis. Now, the interesting thing about all those points is that they all have a y value that is 0. I also have a bunch of points on the y-axis, 0, 7, 0, 4, 0, negative 6, and 0, 9. Now these are all similar also because each of the points on the y-axis have an x value of 0. So the x value in the ordered pair is going to be 0, 7, or 0, 4, or 0, negative 6. Now how is that going to help us sketch a parabola? Well, this helps us sketch a parabola because we can plug in 0 for x to find the y-intercept in our equation, and we can also plug in 0 for y to find the x-intercepts or x-intercept of our equation. Let's see how this works on an actual problem. So the problem I have up here is y is equal to x squared minus 2x minus 8. So first, let's try and find the y-intercept by plugging 0 in for x. When I do that, here's what I get. I have y is equal to 0 squared minus 2 times 0 minus 8. Now, 0 squared and 2 times 0, they're both nothing, so they're going to disappear. So what I have when x is 0 is a y value of negative 8. So I wrote that down. So x 0, y equals negative 8 is a point, and that's going to be the y-intercept. Now let's try and find the x-intercept or intercepts. When I do that, I'm going to plug in 0 for y. Well, 0 is equal to x squared minus 2x minus 8 is my new equation. Now this isn't as easy to find as my other one when I plugged in 0 for x. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure I could guess and check and plug in quantities for x, but that's going to be kind of a difficult way to do it. So I've written down, now what? Well, it's written as a sum. And what I mean by that is a parabola x squared minus 2x minus 8 is written as a sum. I'm going to change that to write that as a product and see if that helps us solve for when x is equal to 0. So here I've put the equation down, and now I'm going to, in order to factor it or write it as a product, I'm going to use my generic rectangle and diamond problems. So I put my x squared tiles in the bottom left. I put my unit tiles in the upper right. Now these two boxes have to have a product of negative 8x squared. So I'll put that up in my diamond problem up there. But they have to have the sum of the middle term when my quadratic is written as a sum. So it's got to have a sum of negative 2x. And what I mean by that is these two boxes have to add up to negative 2x. So I'm going to put that down in my diamond problem also. Now to get a negative product, I know one of my factors has to be negative and the other has to be positive. And actually, since my sum is negative, I know the larger one has to be negative. So my two factors are negative 4 and 2. I'll go ahead and put those right into my generic rectangle. And if I look at my bottom row, I know I can factor an x out of that bottom row because they both have an x in common. If this dimension's x and my area is x squared, this dimension down here on the bottom also has to be x. Well, if this dimension's x and my area is 2x, this dimension has to be 2. If this dimension is x and my area is negative 4x, that dimension has to be negative 4. So when I write this as a product, I get the following. 0 is equal to x minus 4 times x plus 2. Now here is how that helps us, and here is what the zero product property means. In order to get a product of 0, so in order when I multiply two numbers, in order to get 0 as an answer, one of the two factors has to be 0. So what that tells me is either x minus 4 has to equal 0, or x plus 2 has to equal 0. So now I have two small equations that I'm going to solve for x to find out what x has to be. So when I put this in my equation and solve it. I'll add 4 to both sides, and I end up with x is equal to positive 4 on that one. On the other one, when I solve it, I'll subtract 2 from both sides, and I end up with x is equal to negative 2. So my two solutions are 4, 0, because when I have x is equal to 4, my y value will be 0, and negative 2, 0. And what that means is if x is equal to negative 2, then this part's going to be 0, and 0 times anything else is also going to be 0. So now I have 3 points I can plot on my graph. The first point I can plot is 4, 0. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'll just put a little dot right down there. The next point I can plot is negative 2, 0. So negative 1, negative 2, and I'll just put a little dot right down there. Another point I can plot is 0, negative 8. So I go over 0 and down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And right there, I can plot that point also. Now, the vertex of the parabola, or the low point of the parabola, is going to be halfway in between these 2 points. And what I mean by that is my x value has got to be right in the middle between these 2 points. And I know that because parabolas are symmetrical. So halfway in between negative 2 and positive 4 is 1. So if I put 1 in for x, I can find the value of y. That will be my vertex of this parabola. So when I do that, 1 squared is 1, minus 2 times 1 is negative 2, so 1 minus 2 is negative 1, minus 8 is negative 9. So the point is 1, negative 9, and that will be the vertex of the parabola. Now I have enough points that I should be able to make a pretty nice sketch of this parabola. Hopefully this video helped you. If you have any questions, make sure you come in and see me first thing in the morning.